The first time I kissed him, I thought God was finally giving me a break. Turns out, he was just playing the cruelest joke of my life. The small town of Maplewood was never kind to people like me. Growing up as the son of a drunk mechanic and a mother who worked 2 shifts at the diner, I had learned early on that love wasn't something people like us were entitled to. Love was for the kids with picket fences and family photo albums, not for the boy hiding bruises under long sleeves. And yet, there he was, Ethan, the kind of guy who could walk into a room and make it feel less suffocating. He wasn't flashy, wasn't the center of attention, but something about him, maybe the way he looked at you like he was actually listening, made you want to spill every secret you had ever kept. He was quiet strength wrapped in boyish laughter, and I didn't stand a chance from the moment he looked at me across that half-empty bar. The night we met, the jukebox was playing some sad country song about heartbreak and highways. I had been nursing a beer I couldn't afford when he sat down beside me, his shoulders brushing mine. "You look like you could use something stronger," he had said, sliding a glass of whiskey my way. I remember laughing, bitter and broken. "You offering charity?" He smirked, that lazy smile of his. "No, just company." It wasn't long before company turned into late-night drives down empty back roads, into his laughter echoing against the walls of my crappy apartment, into stolen kisses that tasted like smoke and hope. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was living. But the universe doesn't hand out miracles without strings attached. It started with little things. My mother mentioning an adoption she had never spoken about, a brother I never knew existed, Ethan's adoptive parents whispering in church pews, avoiding certain names. The puzzle pieces were all there, scattered in plain sight, but I refused to put them together. Because if I did, it would mean the love that had saved me was the one love I could never have. The night I found out, it was raining so hard the roof of Ethan's truck sounded like it was about to cave in. We had just made love in the back seat, our breaths still heavy, our skin warm and slick. I remember tracing the scar on his shoulder with my fingertips when he said it. "My parents aren't really my parents," he admitted, voice soft, almost lost under the storm. "I was adopted, found out a couple years ago." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because fate has a sick sense of humor. My mother's voice replayed in my head like a broken record. "We had to give him up. We couldn't afford another child." No, couldn't be. But it was. The documents, the stories, the undeniable truth, they all screamed the same thing. Ethan was my brother, my flesh, my blood, and I had loved him in every way a man could love another. The days after were a blur of silence and guilt. I avoided his calls, stayed away from the places we used to meet, drowned myself in work and cheap liquor. But no matter how far I ran, his face followed me. His laugh haunted me. And worse, the way he had looked at me that last night, the way he had said my name like it was the only word he wanted to remember, wouldn't let me go. I told myself I hated him, that what we had was a mistake, a sin written in fire and shame. But hate is easy. Hate is clean. What I felt for Ethan was messy, terrifying, impossible to burn out. Weeks passed before I finally saw him again. He was standing outside the gas station, rain dripping off his hair, looking at me like I was both the poison and the cure. "You knew," he said, his voice breaking. I didn't want to believe it. And now, I couldn't answer. Not when every bone in my body screamed to pull him into my arms and every piece of logic told me I had to let him go. The town whispered. They always do. People saw the way we looked at each other, and rumors spread faster than wildfires in July. But they didn't know the truth. They couldn't, because the truth was too unbearable, too twisted to put into words. And yet, in the darkest corners of my heart, I wondered, if love had saved me once, could it save me again even if the world called it wrong? Because what we had wasn't wrong. It was real. It was the only thing that had ever felt real. But real doesn't always mean right. I had never seen Ethan look so broken. He stood there in the rain, shoulders slumped, lips trembling like a boy on the verge of begging. I had been the one to avoid him, to run from the truth that had shattered us. And now here he was, demanding answers I didn't have the courage to give. "Say something," he whispered. His voice cracked, softer than the storm around us. "I can't," I said, every syllable like glass in my throat. "Don't you get it, Ethan? We can't." He stepped closer, rain pouring off his lashes. "We already did. We already are." I wanted to tell him to stop. I wanted to scream at him, push him away, make him hate me so it would be easier. But when his hand brushed mine, just a ghost of a touch, I froze. My heart betrayed me, because love doesn't vanish just because it's inconvenient. And God, I loved him. The next days were a war zone inside me. My body remembered him, every touch, every kiss. My heart ached with the memory of how safe I felt in his arms. But my mind screamed that this was wrong, that blood was thicker than water and we were drowning in it. I spent hours driving nowhere, radio static filling the silence. Sometimes I parked outside Ethan's house, headlights off, just to see the flicker of his bedroom light. I imagined him inside, lying on his bed, maybe thinking about me, maybe hating me, maybe both. But Maplewood was small, and you can't outrun fate in a town like ours. One afternoon, I found him at the old baseball field where we used to go when the world felt too heavy. He was sitting on the bleachers, hands buried in his hair, staring at the cracked diamond like it held the answers. "You shouldn't be here," I said. "And yet, here you are too." His laugh was bitter. I sat down anyway. Silence stretched between us, the kind that could suffocate or heal depending on what you did with it. "I don't know how to stop loving you," I admitted. The words tasted like confession, like surrender. He turned to me, eyes burning. "Then don't." My breath caught. It was that simple to him. That impossible. The world, of course, didn't make it simple. It started with whispers at the diner where my mother worked. Women clutching their coffee cups a little too tight. Men lowering their voices, but not enough for me not to hear. "Those boys are too close," they muttered. "Something ain't right." Then came the stares. The silence when we walked into church. The way people pulled their kids a little closer, like love was contagious. And finally, my mother. She found me one night sitting on the porch, chain-smoking cigarettes like I could burn the guilt out of my lungs. Her face was pale, lined with worry. "Tell me it isn't true," she pleaded. "Tell me you're not with him." I wanted to lie. I wanted to give her the comfort of denial. But when I opened my mouth, the truth poured out instead. "I love him, Mom." Her slap was sharp, but it didn't sting half as much as the look in her eyes. Disappointment, fear, shame. "Your brothers," she whispered, like saying it out loud could curse us further. "Do you understand what people will do to you if they find out?" I stood, chest heaving. "Do you understand what I'll do to myself if I lose him?" We didn't speak for days after that. Ethan and I tried to stay apart. We tried. But nights are long in Maplewood, and loneliness is louder than morality. One evening, he showed up at my apartment, soaked again from the rain. He didn't say a word, just walked in, grabbed me by the shirt, and kissed me like a man drowning. And I let him. I let him because in his arms, the world's rules didn't matter. In his arms, I wasn't the poor mechanic's son, wasn't the sinner everyone wanted to shame. I was just me. I was just his. We made love that night like it was both a rebellion and a prayer. Every kiss was defiance, every touch a vow. If loving him was wrong, then I never wanted to be right. After, we lay tangled in sheets, his chest rising and falling against mine. "What if we leave?" he murmured into the dark. "Just disappear. Somewhere no one knows us." It was tempting. God, it was tempting. But I thought of my mother, of the town, of the truth that followed like a shadow. "Running won't change who we are," I said. He was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, "Maybe who we are isn't the problem. Maybe it's who they think we're supposed to be." Weeks blurred into months. The pressure mounted, rumors, disapproval, my mother's cold silence. We became experts at stolen moments, at hiding touches in plain sight, at speaking in glances when words were too dangerous. But hiding eats at you. Secrets rot the soul. And one night, it all came crashing down. It was at the town's 4th of July festival. Fireworks cracked the sky, Kids ran around with sparklers, and Ethan and I slipped away from the crowd, drawn to each other like moths to flame. We kissed behind the bleachers, the world exploding above us. We thought we were alone. We weren't. By the next morning, everyone knew. The fallout was brutal. My boss fired me from the garage. Ethan's foster father told him to pack his things. Strangers spit at our feet. Friends turned their backs. But worst of all was the look in Ethan's eyes, fear, but not of them. Of me. Of losing me to the weight of it all. Maybe they're right, I told him one night, my voice breaking. Maybe we're cursed. He grabbed my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. No, we're not cursed. We're in love. That's the only truth that matters. I wanted to believe him. I needed to. Because without him, I was nothing but a hollow shell. A man who had tasted light and was forced back into darkness. But the question lingered, heavy and cruel. Could love really survive when the world was built to destroy it? The morning after the festival felt like waking up in a different world. A world where every neighbor's eyes burned holes in my back. Where whispers followed me into every store, every gas station, every corner of this suffocating town. I should have been used to shame. It had been stitched into my skin since childhood, but this was different. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Ethan too. And somehow, the thought of him carrying the weight of their disgust hurt worse than the hatred aimed at me. At the diner, my mother refused to meet my eyes. She poured coffee for strangers, forced a smile. But when I stood at the counter, she walked away like I wasn't even there. I wanted to scream, to tell her I was still her son, that nothing cold changed that. But the words lodged in my throat, heavy and useless. I walked out into the hot July air and found Ethan leaning against his truck, waiting. They'll never forgive us, I said. He shrugged, but his jaw was tight. Then let's stop asking for forgiveness. That night we drove, miles of empty road stretching out under a sky heavy with stars. We didn't talk much. Sometimes silence was safer, softer. But eventually he broke it. What if we really left? His voice was low, almost lost under the hum of the engine. No more Maplewood. No more whispers. Just you and me. I looked at him, his profile lit by passing headlights. He looked young, almost boyish, but there was steel in his eyes. He meant it. And then what? I asked. We build a life on lies? Hide forever. He gripped the wheel tighter. It wouldn't be hiding. It would be living. I wanted to believe him. God. I wanted to pack a bag, take his hand, and drive until the road ended. But I knew the truth. No matter where we went, our blood would follow. Still, for that moment, I let myself dream. Dream of a place where no one cared, where our love wasn't sin but salvation. And maybe that dream was enough to keep us alive. Reality came crashing back when Ethan's foster father showed up at my door. He didn't knock, just barged in, red-faced and shaking with fury. You stay the hell away from him, he spat, jabbing a finger into my chest. You think you can ruin my family? Ruin this town. I didn't move, didn't blink. I love him. His laugh was cruel. Love? That's what you call it? It's filth. It's sickness. And if you don't walk away, you're gonna regret it. He slammed the door on his way out, but his words lingered like smoke. I should have been afraid. Instead, I was angry. Angry that the world thought it had the right to decide what my heart could feel. Angry that strangers could condemn what they didn't understand. And underneath that anger, a dangerous truth pulsed. I wasn't going to let them take Ethan from me. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Ethan and I were at the old quarry, a place we'd claimed as ours long before the whispers began. We sat on the rocks, our legs dangling over the edge, the water below black and endless. I can't keep doing this, he said suddenly, his voice raw. Hiding, fighting, pretending like we're not, like this isn't real. It is real, I told him. It's the only real thing I've ever had. Then why does it feel like we're dying? The question sliced through me. Because he was right. Every day was a battlefield. Every glance over our shoulders a reminder that the world wanted us destroyed. But when he reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. our fingers laced together, trembling but certain. Because love like this, I whispered, was never meant to be easy. He turned to me then, eyes fierce despite the tears brimming in them. Then let's make it worth it. And he kissed me, reckless and desperate, like we were both drowning, and the only air left in the world was in each other's mouths. The fallout only worsened. We were called names in the street, shoved in grocery store aisles, left anonymous notes on our windshields. My mother begged me to repent, to find a way to love him as a brother, not a lover. Ethan's foster parents threatened to send him away, cut him off entirely. But the more they pushed, the closer we clung. Because if we didn't have each other, what did we have? Some nights, though, when Ethan was asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if maybe they were right. If maybe we were selfish for holding on when the world told us to let go. But then he'd shift in his sleep, curl closer to me, whisper my name like a prayer, and all doubt burned away. Because whatever else we were wrong, cursed, broken, were also in love. And love was worth burning for. It all came to a head one night when a group of men cornered us outside the bar. Drunk, angry, their words slurred but their hatred sharp. Brothers. One of them sneered, spitting at our feet. Disgusting. Ethan stepped in front of me, fists clenched, ready to fight the whole damn world if he had to. But I pulled him back. Not like this, I whispered. We left bruised, shaken, but alive. And in the aftermath, as I held ice to his swollen lip, he looked at me with something I hadn't seen before: fear. Not of them, but of losing me. I don't care what they do to me, he said. But if they take you from me, I won't survive it. I kissed him then, gentle despite the pain. They'll never take me from you. And I meant it. With every broken piece of my heart, I meant it. We didn't know what the future held. We didn't know if we'd ever be accepted, if the world would ever soften enough to let us breathe. But we knew this: we were stronger together than apart. And sometimes that was enough. The night after the attack outside the bar, I knew something had to give. We couldn't keep hiding in shadows, kissing in the dark, pretending like the weight of the world wasn't pressing down on us. If we were going to survive, we had to face it head on. I told Ethan as much the next morning, over coffee gone cold on the counter of my cramped kitchen. He stared at me, exhaustion in his eyes, bruises on his lip. You want to tell them? He asked, voice hoarse. I want to stop running, I said. From them, from myself, from us. He set his mug down, trembling just a little. Then we do it together. Together. That word had carried us this far. When Sunday came, we didn't slip into church like shadows anymore. We walked down Main Street in daylight, side by side, hands brushing but not hidden. The whispers rose like a storm behind us, but I kept my eyes forward, my chest heaving with something between fear and defiance. And then we stopped right in front of the courthouse, where the town's history was etched into stone. I turned to Ethan, his blonde hair catching the light like a halo, his face pale but steady. This is it, I whispered. He nodded, sliding his fingers into mine. And for the first time, we didn't let go. The crowd gathered fast, drawn by curiosity and the promise of scandal. Familiar faces twisted in disgust. Strangers muttered words like abomination and sin. My mother stood at the edge, her hands wringing the hem of her apron, her face stricken. I swallowed hard. My throat burned, but I lifted my chin anyway. My name is Daniel, I said, my voice carrying farther than I thought possible. And this is Ethan. We are brothers, yes, but we are also in love. Gasps, shouts, a ripple of rage through the crowd. But Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, and I felt strength surge through me. We didn't choose this, I continued. We didn't ask for it. But it happened, and it's real. And no amount of hate or shame or violence will change that. My voice broke, but I pushed on. You can call us sinners. You can call us cursed. But don't you dare tell me this isn't love. Because it is. It's the truest thing I've ever known. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut skin. For a moment, I thought they might drag us out, tear us apart right there in the square. But then Ethan spoke, his voice steady, calm. All my life, I've wondered who I really was, where I came from, what family meant. And then I found him. And I finally understood family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, it's about the person who makes you feel whole. He looked at me then, tears brimming in his eyes. Daniel is my home. He's my family. And I will not give him up. The crowd erupted half with fury, half with uneasy silence. But in the middle of it all, we stood like stone, holding on to each other as if the earth itself might try to tear us apart. That night, the world felt both heavier and lighter. We had stepped into the fire and survived, but the smoke still clung to us. The stares didn't vanish, the whispers didn't fade, but something shifted. We weren't hiding anymore, and there's power in truth, even the kind that burns. My mother came to me 2 days later. Her eyes were red, her shoulders slumped, but there was softness in her voice I hadn't heard in years. I don't understand it, she said, and maybe I never will, but you're my son. I can't lose you. I broke then, sobbing in her arms like the boy I used to be. It wasn't full acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. Ethan's foster parents were slower to bend. They told him to leave to find his own way. And so he did, packing a bag, walking out with nothing but conviction in his eyes and my hand in his. We found a small apartment on the edge of town, paint peeling, pipes rattling, but it was ours. For the first time, we were ours. The weeks turned to months. The town didn't change overnight. Some days the weight of their judgment pressed so hard I thought it would crush me. But then Ethan would laugh at something stupid, or burn pancakes at dawn, or fall asleep with his head on my chest, and I'd remember why we were still standing. Because love like ours didn't vanish in the face of hate. It endured. One evening in autumn, when the leaves painted Maplewood gold and crimson, Ethan and I sat on that same cliff we had once haunted in fear. The valley stretched below us, endless and quiet. I used to think we were cursed, I admitted, that this was punishment. And now, he asked. I turned to him, to the boy who had saved me, ruined me, remade me. Now I think we're a miracle. He smiled then, small and weary and perfect. A messy miracle. Yeah, I said, kissing him under the fading sun. But still ours. Life didn't become easy. It never would. But in the little apartment with its rattling pipes, with pancakes burned and laughter echoing, with nights tangled in each other's arms, we built something stronger than the world's hate. We built love. And in the end, that was enough. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.